I have noticed that when many people on YouTube speak of Thunderfoot, they use reverential tones. Even in criticism of him, many feel that it's important to acknowledge his virtues. We hear of his intelligence, his scientific background, the quality of his films. It's important to keep these things in perspective because the truth of the matter is that there are several intelligent people on YouTube, many with noteworthy backgrounds, dozens who produce high-quality films. It's particularly important to tell the truth about the real source of awe and reverence for Thunderfoot. He has 94,000 subscribers. And a large subscriber base is a kind of fetish for many on YouTube. It's a kind of fixation that can distort one's perception about a maker of YouTube videos. It can cause someone to praise when the evidence indicates that they should condemn. It can make someone treat demagoguery as if it were rational argument. It can drive someone to uphold and support what they in fact should diagnose. Well, I diagnose Thunderfoot. I diagnose him as being a strutting egotist, a pompous narcissist. Mind you, that is a lay diagnosis, but I believe it is an accurate one. I believe that Thunderfoot's narcissism has been rumbling beneath all of his recent Islamophobic hate-baiting videos. But in his recent Draw Mohammed Day 20th May 2010 video, his narcissism is completely unmasked. Just examine some of the comments he makes in the video. The evidence of his narcissism is trippingly obvious. He says, and I quote, "If people choose to follow me, they do it of their own vocation." End of quote. People follow him? Is that what he wants? Followers? He doesn't want to encourage people to make up their own minds and act autonomously? Notice how he rationalizes his bid to gain followers by saying that if they follow him, they do so of their own volition. I cannot think of any religious or cult leader who hasn't rationalized encouraging people to become followers by using language nearly identical to Thunderfoot's. He says again, and I quote, "All I can do is lead by example." End of quote. So that is what he has set himself up as? A leader? He is the leader of us? And where does Thunderfoot propose to lead from? He says, and I quote, "to lead from the front." He likes that image of himself as out in front, with others, by implication, following behind. Notice that he doesn't instead empower people from behind. Of course he doesn't. There are no ego strokes when one empowers from behind. He talks of inspiring by example. Well, this atheist finds his example not inspiring, but dispiriting. On YouTube, he has associated atheism with extremism, a lack of balanced judgment, and hate baiting. Just as fascinating are the heroic tones Thunderfoot's language takes, where he makes himself out as a hero. He says, and I quote, "I did what I had to do." End of quote. No, he didn't. He didn't have to do what he did or do it in exactly the way he did it. He didn't have to respond to the threats of a few Muslim extremists over the South Park cartoon. He could have not responded at all, or responded by including this distinction between extremists and moderate Muslims. He could have responded without his hate-baiting Draw Mohammed Day campaign. He also says that he Uh, he's fearlessly invited with full knowledge anonymity cannot last forever. Is that how he sees himself? As fearless? Better yet, is that how he wants us to see him? As fearless? That indeed seems to be the case. He talks of taking the, quote, lion's share of the risk upon myself, end of quote. Oh, he's taking the lion's share of the risk upon himself for us, you see. Here, allow me to give Thunderfoot what he seems to want for all his so-called risk. Thank you, Thunderfoot. You're so courageous. But what risk did he really incur? A few threats from a handful of nutcases? I think the answer can be found in the response that Thunderfoot says he has received from his provocation. I'm quoting him. He says, "What have we heard out of the Muslim world? What have they done in response to this defiant and public throwdown? Nothing. Absolutely nothing." End of quote. There you have it. All of his drama, puffery, and demagoguery have resulted in no substantial response whatsoever. But does this non-response make him question his sense of self-importance? No, Thunderfoot cannot be wrong, you see. In true narcissistic fashion, it only feeds his egotism. He says, and I quote, "Now we see the score. Happy to intimidate decent, honest, civilized folks with death threats when you think you can get away with it. Too cowardly to try such tactics when someone publicly and defiantly calls bullshit on you, when you know you will experience a disproportionate free speech backlash." End of quote. So that's his answer. Muslims know they can intimidate decent, honest, civilized folk, and so they speak out. But they also realize they cannot intimidate someone like Thunderfoot. Someone, you see, who is fearless, defiant, and courageous like him. How much better and more courageous the great Thunderfoot is than the decent, honest, civilized folks who cave in to Muslim intimidation. Isn't that what he's really saying? That he's better than them? Allow me to suggest why Thunderfoot has received nothing, absolutely nothing, as a substantial public response by Muslims. I suspect there are two reasons. First, because there is a real difference between moderate and extremist Muslims, and moderate Muslims populate the vast majority of the Muslim international community. And the moderate Muslims who visit YouTube are not greatly upset by Thunderfoot's playing at defiance. They don't think that anything of any consequence should happen to him or anyone because of his Draw Mohammed Day campaign. Second, in the vast scheme of the world, in the final analysis, 94,000 subscribers on YouTube doesn't mean a great deal. Compared to the din of the world, Thunderfoot registers merely as a faint peep. Nothing of any great weight or consequence hangs on what he says on YouTube. Compared to the world, to use a Ptolemaic expression, Thunderfoot is as a point without significance. In short, Thunderfoot, you are not nearly what you fantasize yourself to be. Your gamble for widespread fury from Muslims has failed. Only someone suffering from delusions of grandeur would have thought it would succeed. Thanks.